Hi, thanks for listening to the St. Aidan's Cumbria Sermon Podcast. We exist to see God's kingdom come in Cumbria as it is in heaven. You can find out more by heading to staidanscumbria.org. God bless. Hello friends, if you are watching this, then it's because I've had to shoot off on an emergency with Steph in hospital, awaiting the arrival of our baby this week, hopefully. So if you're watching this, that's why you're watching it. I've just had to shoot off before the service has started. But I thought what I would do, just in case, is record a one-take brain dump of what it was I was going to say in the service if I'd been there. Really short version, just for you guys to watch, and then I think you'll be set off into groups to discuss and process like we normally do. So today we're thinking about God's kingdom coming. Last week we thought about the reality, the promise that God's kingdom is coming, that Jesus says the kingdom is on its way. And so this week what we're going to be thinking about, what I was going to be talking to you about, was what does that look like? Where do we see it? What's the reality of it? And we were doing that with two lenses, looking at the world wider, looking more broadly, and then specifically looking at our response to it. And what we can see in the world around us are signs, real tangible signs of God's kingdom coming. Some of you may have heard of the Quiet Revival report from the Bible Society that have shown over 5 years, from 2019 to 2024, that the number of people who call themselves Christians and at least monthly attend church services has risen from 8% to 12%. That's a 50% increase. Amongst 25s to 34-year-olds, that increase has tripled. Amongst 18s to 24s, it's quadrupled. Some of you may have seen over the summer the news coming out of Bournemouth of 5 churches who joined together and saw 92 people baptised, responding in faith to the good news about Jesus. And after this video, you may be shown a video that we saw at one of the festivals over the summer, Wildfires Festival, which again was another testimony of someone whose life has been transformed by meeting with Jesus. And all of this is to say that there are real tangible signs of God on the move, his kingdom coming, the good news being proclaimed and changing lives. And so if that is true, if that is happening, then what is our response? And we see it in the reading that you heard read to you before this, or you'll hear just after, from Matthew 28, the Great Commission. And I want to suggest in that we see 3 things that define and shape our response as St. Aidan's to the good news that the kingdom is coming, the people that we want to be, the mission we want to be on. And those 3 things are: we want to be a people who follow Jesus, who are filled with the Spirit, and who are forming Christian communities. Firstly, we follow Jesus. If we're not about Jesus, then what's the point? We're Jesus or bust here at St. Aidan's, and he calls us to follow him, to learn to be his disciples. In many ways, follow is too small a word, but it means we want to learn to love him and experience his love, to be with him and become like him. So at St. Aidan's, we're all about going after being with Jesus, following him. That's what we're all about in everything that we do. Secondly, we want to be filled with the Spirit. Jesus promises that he will be with us, that he won't leave us or forsake us. And so that's why whenever we gather, we pray for the Spirit to be with us, listen to his voice, trust that he gives his gifts and wants to meet with us. And we're going to keep on doing that every time and in every context that we gather. And can I encourage you as well, in the places you find yourself day in, day out, to be praying for God's Spirit to fill you, because we're a people who do this with God's empowering presence. We follow Jesus, we're filled with the Spirit, and thirdly and finally, we are all about forming Christian communities. The church has a mission in the world, but God's mission also has a church. The church is not a mistake, it wasn't an afterthought, but this was God's plan from the very beginning, to gather a people to himself, to join him in seeing his kingdom come. And so that's why we meet each week, that's why we planted St. Aidan's, that's why we're pushing into more and more this term scattered groups, local representations and embodiments of Christian community. We are all about coming together as the people of God to work for God's kingdom to come and to follow Jesus together. And it's also why in the future, over the next year, we're hoping that another member of the team is going to be joining us, a curate, a planting curate. The Church of England wants someone else to come and be trained here at St. Aidan's, so that in 4 years' time or so, we can plant another church, forming Christian communities to see God's kingdom come. So that is a 4-minute version, 5-minute version of what I was going to say. Bless you. We miss you, praying for you, and God's blessing on you as you now turn and reflect and watch those videos and think a bit further. God bless.